So my name's Tanishka, and I have been known as the Moon Woman, but I believe every woman is a Moon Woman. It's not a name I would have chosen for myself. But I received that name because I've helped women for nearly 30 years to align with the lunar cycle on the understanding of how it impacts our psyche, and that really it's our birthright to receive that information as young women when we start cycling with the moon, and when we don't, our mental health is really challenged because it's like we're on a Ferris wheel, 2 weeks up, 2 weeks down. And so without knowing how to navigate that energetically, emotionally and psychologically, we see girls suffering, everything from, self-harm to depression, eating disorders. So yeah, I'm passionate about reclaiming our lost initiation rites, not just for women, but for men. Men are more aligned with the solar cycle. So it was all part of the ancient mystic tradition, the Grail, teaching people the wisdom of the cycles and how to live in alignment with those cycles so we can be sustainable in our personal lives and in our relationships. Haphazardly. So, it wasn't something my school careers guidance officer said, hey, would you like to be a mystic? As I share in the show, one night I was so desperate and lost, I got down on my knees and I just said to existence, help. I need some help being a woman. I need some guidance, some role models. And it was an answered prayer, what happened was I met a woman who I'm sure I must have known her in another time and place, and she felt like a fairy godmother, and she bestowed on me ancient women's wisdom, which helped me reframe how I saw myself, how I saw women, and really my paradigm of reality. And so it lit up such awareness that I felt really it was every woman's birthright to have access to, and so I dedicated my life to that. And previous to that, I was a performer. So now in midlife at 53, I'm bringing both theatre making and mysticism together, because in the ancient world, ritual theatre, as it was called, or the mystery plays, were considered so essential to the health of the collective psyche that even prisoners were let out in ancient Greece to attend the Eleusinian mysteries. So seeing the reenactments of the descent myths of the hero, the lovers, the mother and the daughter, so that people are being shown how to descend through the shadowlands of autumn and winter, which is when we have less energy, and so our shadow comes up, our wounds, our fears, our insecurities, our self-doubts, and then if unconscious, we project them onto our loved ones. And that's what really erodes trust and creates conflict in relationships. The show is about slaying your fears. And so it seems fitting that I was asked to revisit probably my biggest fear, which was stage fright, a fear of getting things wrong in public, which I know is a fear many people share. It's the most common fear. Although I have done 7 world speaking tours since 2012, but it was singing that I was most afraid of doing, because you can't hide your nerves when you sing. The throat energy center, this is the place where our wounds sit, our vulnerability. So particularly when you're singing in the upper register, if you're feeling afraid, it'll show, your voice will shake. But I'm happy to say I got through this season with the support of good people around me. I think that's the ingredient. I brought the power of community to this project, and so I felt held. It was a labor of love. Honestly, that's quite taboo and quite unorthodox. So, okay, I can't lie. This show, the first visions for the show came through, the first vision when I was chanting the energy centers, and I was shown the image of the Sri Yantra, which is in the yogic tradition, considered the most powerful sigil or sacred symbol. And it's the symbol of unity, of all opposing polarities, spirit and matter, feminine, masculine, light and shadow. And really that's what we're all here to try and become, an embodiment of that, you know, knowing that wherever there's balance, there's harmony. And then the second vision came when I was sitting with women in circle on the eve of an eclipse, and the vision that I was shown was me naked on a stage with a big pair of wings, which I later realised is the archetypal dance of the butterfly woman. In the book Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, which is a wonderful book if you haven't read it, it's as rich as a fruitcake, and it's ancient women's wisdom tales that are deconstructed from a Jungian perspective. And she speaks about the tale of La Mariposa, the butterfly woman. And this is a woman who in her elder years, in her crone-dom, is considered to be soul dominant. The word psyche meaning both butterfly, soul and cure. So she embodies the butterfly, one who is showing up for the collective. She's not in service to self. Everything she does is motivated to create legacy, to be of service to the all. So she's honoured as the butterfly woman, the woman who can touch everyone in the tribe, from young warriors to babies to mothers, you know, without people suspecting that her agenda is anything other than altruistic. But the third vision, this happened during the time of the eclipse, and I literally had a full visceral experience of the holographic rainbow serpent. So we have ley lines or dragon lines in the earth, known as song lines to the Indigenous Australians. And these are like the energy meridians of the Earth Mother, who is a living entity. And the Magdalens in the Grail tradition, those who initiated people into the wisdom of the cycles, were also colloquially known as dragon women. And I believe this is why the dragon is sacred in Eastern cultures. We also see it on the Welsh flag. The ancient leaders would swear, take oaths to serve the dragon lines, to serve the earth and her people. It was sacred leadership, you know, as custodians. I've spent years doing something called the tree meditation, where we simply send our energetic roots from the base of our spine and the soles of our feet down into the heart of the earth. And we breathe up the unconditional love of the mother. And in doing that, we connect with the earth energy, which is the dragon power or serpent power, known as Kundalini in the yogic tradition. In the Grail tradition, men had to go and meet the dragon before they were considered fit for marriage, because the dragon woman, they would slay the ego. Hence, you know, the beheading of the ego is in the knighting tradition, the holding the blade to the neck. It represents beheading the rationally dominated youth who need to be brought to their knees so that they don't become a force for destruction, both to themselves and their loved ones and the earth. Writing the show, and this is the bit I'm coy about, I would self-pleasure, and then I would receive intuitive downloads. So the energy of the feminine, it is very sexual. And this has been misunderstood. It has been repressed as evil and distorted, but it is the life force. Yeah, it's the force, as they speak about it. And it's precious. Yeah, if we understand that we are vessels and we honor it and we contain that energy, it's a creative energy. So raise my energy, and then I would, having cleared my channel, I would receive insights and visions, and I would write the show. And I dedicated myself as a vessel 27 years ago, so I'm used to, not everything comes in that way, you know, sometimes I'll receive insights just when I'm meditating or doing yoga or chanting or doing shamanic dance, but we all have access to the quantum field of infinite intelligence, and I'm passionate about helping people to reconnect that so that we don't give our power to intermediaries. Because for me, religion is politicized spirituality, and politics is of the mind, you know, it's about rules and that can be corrupted. Yeah, we all, just like children, we have an innate connection with existence. You know, we see children talking to the spirits that live in trees, the dryads, and the spirits that are the stone people and stones. Everything is a living part of this incredible, unknowable mystery. And when we lose touch with that, that's when people are most at risk of depression and suicide. And seeing the rates of that currently on the planet, there is a need for the wisdom of the feminine to return and to gently reintroduce people to mysticism, to the mystery. When we think about the state of the world right now, there's a lot of confusion around gender identity, gender politics. In fact, it's never been more part of the global conversation. The voice of the mystic feminine isn't really a part of that global conversation. Without rites of passage to understand what it is to be a woman, or what it is to be a man, it's understandable people push back and reject the traditional polarized gender roles of the whore or the Madonna, for instance, you know. But in doing that, I think we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and the feminine and the masculine are multidimensional, multifaceted. Our soul is like a diamond, and the more facets that we uncover and find positive expression for, the more light we bring through, and the more we shine like a diamond, you know, our energy field. And my understanding is the soul is both feminine and masculine, and that the archetypal energies, 7 feminine, 7 masculine, are the guardians or the archetypes that act as keys to opening the 7 ways of seeing reality, so that, you know, the soul is multidimensional. When we see things in binary, we're stuck at the solar plexus, the lower mental body, the rational. And this is where we have conflict. We polarize. And this is what escalates conflict. And we're seeing this a lot on the planet. So when people ask me about feminism, identifying publicly as a feminist on YouTube, innocently in a video, I received over 80 hate mail messages threatening my daughter, threatening my life, calling me a feminazi. And the video was about brotherly love. So it is a hot topic. Nowadays, I see this as the third wave of feminism, what we're now experiencing, which is recognizing internalized misogyny. You know, we have twice as many girls rejecting their female form than we do boys. To me, that is a flag at the end of 2,000 years of patriarchal doctrines that imprinted upon the collective psyche that women are evil, women are not to be trusted, women are temptresses and should be the scapegoat. Whether it was Psyche in ancient Greece, the Greco-Roman being the foundations for our modern culture. You've only got to look at all of our buildings of state in the West. They still look like we're living in ancient Rome, a war state that persecuted women for 500 years. And that has never been recognised, truly recognised. You know, the Roman Catholic Church has never been tried for war crimes. Millions of women were burnt, and a lot of it was a land grab. Yeah, they targeted single mothers whose husbands were killed on war campaigns and were an easy target. They targeted women who were midwives. The word midwife means with women, the women that helped women through their transitions, such as childbirth. And the herbalists, who were a threat to the medical establishment because they were administering health to the people at a much lower cost at a time when women were banned from training as physicians. And, you know, Hippocrates acknowledged that it was the herb lore of the women that they used to create the textbooks for, you know, the training manuals for doctors. So the oppression of the feminine is so ingrained in our culture that we can't even see it unless you're born into a female form, and then you feel it. So the mystic feminine needs to come out of the closet. I meet women a lot that are, into spirituality, but they won't necessarily acknowledge it to their work colleagues. They don't want to be seen as kooky. So this is an aspect that is still under wraps, still veiled, even though in the West we kind of have this feeling of, we've done female emancipation. No, we haven't. The true feminine, essence of the feminine, the wisdom of the feminine is still very much veiled. Mm-hmm. So we have a polarization. We have in the East, we have women who are veiled physically. I lived in Morocco for 4 months this year, and you don't see the women during the day. And you feel hatred. You know when you are being seen as a lesser being. And that's not all men. Some of the men there saw me through the eyes of a mystic and really appreciated the insights that I had to share, often more so than in the West. But we have a long way to go to restore the sacred balance by listening to the women, particularly older women that have journeyed the cycles, humbled their ego and distilled their lessons. We need to be listening to women. The women that are given access to the halls of power are often those who have thrown their feminine out in order to be one of the boys, accepted by the boys' club. And they're not truly operating out of the feminine part of their psyche. So we're at the 11th hour, and sustainability, instead of focusing on political, rational responses to the symptoms, we need to look at the root cause, which is our collective psyche is immature. And until we acknowledge that and reinstate the social scaffolding that supports people to be accountable for their choices, we are going to be careening off a cliff at a fast, exponential rate, because the group mind is essentially teenagers, highly individuated, rebelling against their parents, and a force for destruction.